What's up, everybody? I'm Matt Leinart, 2004 Heisman Trophy winner, and you're watching the Harris Highlight Show.
Na 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 na.
Coming to you live from the Bill Austin Radio Studio at the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism in beautiful downtown Phoenix. This is episode 1 of the final season of the Harris Highlights Show. Joining me this week is our college football expert, Josh Schaefer, our college football analyst, Lyle Goldstein, our executive producer, Brady Klain, and I am your host for the evening, Blake Harris. All right, guys, I guess we need to establish something because a lot of people were confused when we were mentioning our final season, and even right now on Twitter, I said it's our farewell tour, and someone responded saying farewell tour. Well, unfortunately, for 3 of you guys, you know, we all have to graduate college at some point. Now, again, some of us have already done such a great thing, but not everyone has. So, in May, these 3 will be graduating college. Myself, I'm already a college graduate.
It took you how many
Only
years?
took 7 years.
It took 5.5 years. It took 5.5 years.
Plus a year off.
Because I went to a community college, but yet that's the worst thing ever. So we are going until May, or the last week of April. So we are literally in the final countdown. We have, 4 months or so until the final show.
Countdown. Can't get copyrighted if we sing it.
Oh, I know. You can't. So I don't know how many shows that's going to be, whether it's going to be 12 shows, 13 shows, 14 shows, maybe some bonus shows thrown in there. It's the final season of the Harris Highlight Show. And again, it's like every year we always do season 1, season 2, season 3. This will be just the final season with a certain episode. So it's the final season. But it's been a while since we've seen you guys. It's been a while since we've interacted with you guys. Our last show was our Bowl Pick'em show, which was like the first week of December, but Lyle wasn't even here for that. So it's literally been probably 2 months or so since all 4 of us have been in studio with each other. It's a brand new night. Monday nights now at 9 p.m. Eastern, not Tuesday nights anymore. So Monday nights, 9 o'clock Eastern, the 4 of us in studio. We only have one intern tonight, unfortunately. One intern. The other intern's busy.
Has been fired.
I guess he didn't follow his commitments in the paperwork he signed. I mean, we spent hours working on that 12-page document
Legally
that our
binding
interns
document.
have to sign. So
Here's the thing: if you don't fill out the document and turn it in time, we legally cannot bring you in studio.
Yeah, so I'm guessing he didn't read, page 8, section 3, column 4.
Had to let him go.
You hate to see it, but guys, it's been 2 months since we've all been together. How have the 2 months been? What have we been up to? And what's the latest and greatest with each and every one of us?
Latest and greatest. Well, I had a fantastic 3 days. Going down, it was about a couple days after Christmas. It started with a riveting trip to the Holiday Bowl in San Diego. Just truly an unforgettable experience. If you know, you know. After that, it's pretty cool. Did a lot of hockey broadcasting. Been doing that a lot lately, and Lyle and I just called the ASU versus U of A basketball game, which was pretty lit, as the young ones say these days. So, a lot of broadcasting. Lyle, what about you?
Yeah, U of A game, pretty lit.
Pretty.
Oops. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of broadcasting too. I just called my first hockey game like a week ago. Man, that was an experience.
Awesome.
Over break, I mean, you guys know I wasn't here for the Bull show. I was in San Diego for that, and then I went to Cabo a week later with my family and just kind of hung out at home. But
how was Cabo?
It was pretty nice.
Good foods.
I mean, it's all inclusive, so yeah.
Of course.
Cabo with my parents, I can only imagine.
I've done the same thing. And I've stayed at the same exact hotel Lyle did. It's pretty good.
Is that a Jewish thing?
No, it's not.
I've never been to Mexico.
Same.
But yeah, no.
I've been to Canada.
Hey?
I've also been to Canada.
What are you doing in Canada?
Yeah, a good couple months off, but nice to be back.
The fact that you said couple months off is wild.
I know.
Yeah, I had a good break too. I got to go to New York and represent the Harris Highlights Show. The College Football Hall of Fame induction ceremony saw Josh's favorite college football player of all time, Vince Young, get inducted into the Hall of Fame.
He was down.
Troy Polamalu was there. Polamalu.
Is that the guy from those hair commercials?
Yeah, it is. He's the one that's not Patrick Mahomes.
Remember Brady, it's epitome.
It's epitome.
It's
Troy
spreads.
Polamalu is the epitome. Troy Polamalu is the epitome of great hair.
I feel like Blake asking us what we did is like when they come back for an episode of The Office and they're like, "What did I do this summer?" Oh, well, I spent a lot of time with the family. I got promoted. It's like one of those things. Yeah. None of us got promoted.
Who else was at this great Hall of Fame induction this year? Jake Plummer, Jake the Snake. He was there.
Jake the Snake.
I accidentally backed into Peyton Manning. That was fun. And after that, I went home back to Indy. Also went to Mexico over break. Not Cabo. I was at an island, Isla Mujeres, which is, what does that translate to, Josh?
I don't know, but I'm going to stop you at Isla.
Isla.
Isla
Mujeres.
Mujeres.
Isla Mujeres. What does that mean?
I speak fluent Spanish.
And what does that translate to?
So here's the thing. I understand Spanish for the most part. Don't speak it fluently. That doesn't eliminate the hole in what I just said. Island of the Young?
The Island of Women.
Oh!
Yeah, it was a great time.
You had a good time?
I had a good time. It's
for Brady.
A fun time in Mexico.
All right.
And then I went to the national championship.
That's it?
Yeah, went down to New Orleans, stayed clear of all moving automobiles, and, had a good time in New Orleans at the national championship.
Good for you.
So at this year's College Football Playoff Awards, you didn't get the chance to hold on to Jerry Jones' wallet for about 15 minutes?
Not this year. No, Jerry wasn't there this year.
Jerry wasn't there?
Gerald.
Or Gerald.
Gerral. Gerald. Gerald Wayne Jones.
Oh, that's unfortunate. Well, as I mentioned, guys, I had to graduate college. That was fun. Highly recommend doing it.
Did you do anything fun when you walked across the stage?
I raised my hands in the air and pretty much delayed the ceremony by about 8 seconds.
You stop on stage.
I wasn't that one kid that pretended to fall.
One kid did pretend to fall.
Yeah, one kid pretended to fall.
I thought it was real.
Don't do that.
Thought it was funny until I found out it was
Your
fake.
family's not going to think that's funny, so don't pretend to fall. But college was a fun time.
Lyle's going to fall. Lyle's going to get up on stage and forget where he's going, and he's just going to stand there and look around like,
huh?
Or maybe I'll be faking looking around, and then I hit the whoa.
Oh,
yes,
boy.
if you could do that, I would like to know so I could put it on Snapchat.
Okay.
So it was a good winter break, a quick winter break, but then again, it's still crazy to think that it's been 2 months since we've all been back. So there's some things we need to discuss before we get into the nitty-gritty. As I mentioned, guys, this is our official last season of the show, meaning we can't just come on every week and talk about what's going on in college football, because for the most part, there's not going to be a whole lot going on aside from the NFL draft and all that fun stuff. Maybe a coach gets fired. Maybe a player, gets arrested, and we have something interesting to talk about.
This is now a Scottish Premier League soccer show.
So, we have some cool shows in mind, but we want to hear what you guys have to say. So if you guys have any cool ideas as to what you'd like to see in future shows, we've talked about doing our own college football expansion as if we were on the playoff committee. I know we've talked about doing other cool show idea concepts, but we'd like to hear your guys' input. So if you're listening right now, go over to Twitter at the @HHShow_. Let us know. If you're watching this on YouTube, leave a comment below on what kind of shows you'd like to see, what kind of topics you'd like to see. We have a bunch of NFL draft prospects that are going to be joining us on the show in the coming weeks. Lots of fun there. But yeah, as I mentioned, whatever you'd like to see, leave a comment and let us know, because we have 4 months. We've tried doing a second season, an off-season type show the last 4 years, and we usually do about 3. Because there's nothing really to talk about. So we're going to push it every week and let us know what you guys would like to see. But
Combine?
I did mention that as well. Oh, should I bring up the...
I think you can if you want.
All right.
Super early tease.
There's this idea that's been thrown out there the last few seasons that we've all wanted to. We just haven't got around to doing it. Well, everyone loves the NFL Draft Combine. Brady's gone to the NFL Draft Combine a few seasons. Unfortunately, the three of us have never gotten to go because we don't have the connections that Brady does.
Brady got me Nike socks, though.
Oh, he did?
I got you guys Nike gear.
However, we thought instead of going to the NFL Combine, why not bring the NFL Combine to us.
And make them come to us.
For the first and the only time ever in the history of anything, the four of us will be competing in our own Harris Highlights Show Draft Combine. We're going to be doing the 40. We're going to be doing the bench press. We're going to be doing the cone shuffles. We're going to be catching balls and running routes. We're going to be taking those questionnaire tests, whatever they make them take, where they ask you really weird questions. I don't know.
The Wonderlick test.
Whatever that's called. All the stuff that these professional or collegiate athletes do.
Bench press.
We're going to attempt to do it.
Oh yeah, bench press.
The bench press. Well, I was probably thinking, oh yes, I get to show everyone that I go to the gym every day and I can beat everyone. I think we're going to have to make the bench press like 10 pounds on each side.
I think Brady honestly wins it, to be honest.
So we're going to do our own NFL Draft Combine. Not exactly sure when that's going to happen. We still have to figure all that out, but look for that in the coming weeks, the coming months.
Something fun we could also do is we could open it up to the people on what kind of fun other activities would you like to see all four of us compete in?
The 100-yard dash.
Thumb wrestling.
Oh, that, hand-to-hand combat thumb wrestling's big time, Josh, in the NFL.
Pa! How many times you can do kick flips with a hand tech deck?
I actually heard Pete Carroll thumb wrestle DK Metcalf when he came into the office, and that's why they drafted him.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, that's why.
That's big.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys. Well, speaking of fun shows, in 2 weeks is going to be one of our best and most fun shows of the year, and that is the 4th annual Harris Highlights Awards Show. Now, for those of you that aren't really familiar, there's a bunch of college football awards out there, but there isn't a true award show. There isn't a true award show in regards to college football. They give out the Heisman, they give out an award for the best kicker, the best wide receiver, whatever, but we're talking like in-depth awards. We got like 20, 25 different awards. It's going to be our 4th year. By the time this show is live, there's going to be a link in the description of the video where you can go and you can vote for all the major awards. And there's going to be a thing at the end where you can leave a comment as to what you'd like to see in future shows, what you've enjoyed about the show, a fun time. The award show will be in 2 weeks. The official date, let me just get this up really quick, will be February 10th. So February 10th at 9 p.m. Eastern will be the 4th annual Harris Highlights Award Show. You definitely don't want to miss it. I'm currently working on my opening monologue.
Oh, yes.
I'm going to Ricky Gervais it. So Brady, get
Please.
get the mute button and the swear button ready, because nothing... I said this on Inside Pitch last week, guys. And the fact that I'm a college graduate now, I don't have anything to lose.
That's
You guys do, but I don't. They can't kick me off. I'm just a guest on the show right now.
I know, but what if you say something that prevents you from, I don't know, getting a job?
That would be tough. So
it's a tough job market out there, Blake.
So you're telling me. So 2 weeks from tonight, the Harris Highlights Award Show, guys. It's dress to impress, which means suit up.
Oh, yeah.
Suit up.
Duh.
All right, so suit up. So that's in 2
I already
weeks.
look like I just got drafted.
All right, so make sure to follow along on Twitter to keep posted with that, and follow along with YouTube. The link to vote will be live tomorrow. You can vote as many times as you want. So if your favorite player is nominated, make sure you vote so they can win. But guys, I think that pretty much wraps everything up. We only have 40 minutes left to talk college football.
We're also doing an hour-long show this semester.
Yeah, we're only doing an hour long because we figured 90 minutes. Well, I feel like we can make a 90-minute show happen.
Easily.
Now, one final thing before we get to that. Brady, you can cut the music. Now, I wrote here in our nice Google Doc, winners of Bowl Mania. I completely forgot to add up the 3 of our pick'ems for the bowls, so that's gonna have to wait until next week unless our intern wants to do it right now. But I'm not gonna put him through that excruciating
He said
work.
no. What do the interns do?
So I
exactly?
do have the current winners for our Bowl Mania group. For our straight league, we had a 3-way tie of 32 points. So 3 people got 32. Louisville. Hey man,
Graduates College
it's
kids.
Lewey.
Louisville.
Hey,
Still
man.
Louisville.
Lowy. I'm gonna say Lowy. Ballin' like Curry and Slay Dog 17. So congratulations, guys. Y'all had a 3-way tie. Moving over now to the Harris Highlights Confidence Group. We had someone win, and how about this? In first place with 704 points is Thank You Harris Highlights.
Aw.
Thank You Harris Highlights came in first place. So whoever you are, thank you.
Stacey Harris.
Hey,
You're welcome.
Hey, I got 6th place in this one. Well done, Blake.
If you ain't
well
first,
done.
you're last.
If you ain't first,
You're
last.
Did you just congratulate yourself?
I did. I'm very proud of myself. 6 is I've never finished high in these.
You're
it's
welcome.
like the March Madness brackets, that I do with a good old MB, where I know more than all these guys, but yet I always finish last. It's because
Who's
they do
MB again?
It's because they do chalk. Well, that is my fraternity.
Oh, that's right.
Of course. All right, guys, let's talk some college football. The national championship, it seems like it was forever ago. I mean, it was 2 weeks? 2 weeks ago tonight, so it was 2 weeks ago. Brady was in New Orleans. I was in Las Vegas.
Great city.
And you two were here. So we were all spread out for the national championship. For the first quarter and a half, even first half, you could say, it looked like it was going to be a fairly decent game. It looked like it was going to be fairly competitive. And then in the second half, LSU just did what LSU's been doing all season. They just gave Clemson the shaft, and they ran away with it, won the national championship, the best team in college football this past season. So, guys, what were your thoughts and takeaways from the national championship? Were you disappointed? Were you thrilled? Did you enjoy it? What did you come away from the game with?
Well, I thought you said it pretty well. I mean, the first half was exciting for the most part.
About the shaft?
No, that's not where I was going with it. I thought the first half was exciting. For a while, I thought Trevor Lawrence was looking pretty good. I was not, I don't think worried is the right answer. I was kind of hoping LSU would win just because it was such a phenomenal season, and it's somebody new other than Clemson. Of course, if Clemson won, I don't care. But Trevor Lawrence, I thought early on was looking really, really good. But then ultimately, no touchdowns for him. I mean, his stats weren't incredible. He was a little underwhelming, but I guess Clemson was as a team. You just look at Joe Burrow's stat line. 463 yards, 5 touchdowns, no picks. I mean, I knew it wasn't going to take long. I guess the actual time is about 22 minutes. Dude's an absolute wagon. Dude's a wagon. Who had the over? What was the over?
Damn it, I was going to say it.
What was the over on minutes until I said wagon?
21.
21? Oh, if you hammered the over, good for you. Wagon at about 22 minutes, I think, depending on when the show actually started. It's 7:22, so, wagon.
I'm kind of in the same boat as you. I mean, especially when Clemson scored that first touchdown. Okay, spoiler, I thought Clemson was going to win. I know on the show when I called in, I picked him to win it all. And I thought LSU was really, really good, but I thought, you know what? They haven't played a defense like Clemson's all year. At, semifinal, they played Oklahoma, and Clemson scores that first touchdown, and I'm like, this is exactly why I don't understand why everybody's picking against them. Why is everybody doubting Clemson so much? And then later on, a few people I was watching with, Josh included, gave me a little bit of a hard time because I was a little too quick to jump to conclusions. But
after the first touchdown, he went, "Oh, it's over."
No, I did not say.
Do not lie.
My exact
lying is a sin.
My exact
is a sin.
Words.
Sin.
You
are a Notre Dame fan, Lyle. You are a Notre Dame. I expected better of you.
Yeah. Anyway, my exact words were, I don't understand why people continue to pick against them. Those were my exact words, not "it's over." But
technicalities.
Yeah, LSU proved. I mean, their offense was as legit as it seemed. I mean, they went against maybe the best defense in the country in Clemson, a team that was allowing just over 11 points a game, and Joe Burrow puts up 6 touchdowns and almost 500 yards. He was absolutely incredible, one of the best seasons ever for a college quarterback. And then Jamar Chase, this dude looks like Julio Jones in the making. 220 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns. Edwards-Helaire went over 100 yards after being banged up for the first playoff game. LSU as a whole, their defense was good, their offense was insane, and because of it, they prevailed, and their second half was unreal.
Yeah, it sucks going third because you guys take all the good stuff to say. But honestly, I will say this, and that game, being there, we've all been fortunate enough to cover some big-time games, right? Like, especially ASU. We've seen cool atmospheres like this. I have never seen or been in a louder atmosphere in my life than that game. It was to the point where I didn't even realize that Burrow threw 6 touchdowns until I looked up. It's like, 6 touchdowns. New national championship record. 500 yards. New national championship record. So the way that he just nonchalantly, so subtly attacked everything in that game, it was awesome to see. Because you see a guy like Joe Burrow who, you see him on the stationary bike on the sideline singing along with the band playing neck was pretty cool too. He was into this game, he was loving it, and the way that they just were down, 14 to start, they were down 10 to start, they had a field goal, whatever it was early, seeing them just turn on the afterburners and go after this Clemson team, which everyone was saying Clemson was actually a favorite in this game. They were a favorite against Ohio State, they ended up winning against Ohio State, but seeing this LSU team play like the way they did was unreal.
And then he strolled up to the press conference with a cigar.
Take it easy with that cigar.
Yeah, I picked Clemson to win on our bowl pick'em show as well. Even in Vegas, I took Clemson plus 4.5 because I was thinking Clemson not only can win, I mean, if they can keep it within 4 points, that's going to be great. So I was all over Clemson, and they look good early on. They took the lead, 7-0 early on. I'm sure Lyle said that's ball game right away. I wish I could have been there. But even then, they jumped out to a 17-7 lead a few minutes into the second quarter, and it still looked like they were going to be dominating because up to that point, I mean, the first 7-8 minutes of that first quarter were just brutal. There was 5 or 6 punts. The game was just dragging on. It was a very boring kind of first half of the quarter, then it kind of picked up. But yeah, Clemson, they were up. That's the forgotten part. Clemson was up 17-7 in this game, and then they were outscored 35-8 the rest of the way because Joe Burrow kicked it into another gear. I mean, my biggest takeaway, aside from the fact that LSU is probably the most dominant team we've ever seen, which we'll get to after this, is that Trevor Lawrence, he didn't look awful, but I think that this was just, it wasn't a good game for Trevor Lawrence. He did have the rushing touchdown in the first quarter, but after that, 18 of 37 passing, 234 yards. He didn't throw a single touchdown, didn't throw a pick, which I guess credit to him. He did run for 49 yards, but it just seemed like, especially once Clemson was down, he was missing on every throw. It wasn't like a Lamar Jackson type thing where players were dropping passes in that Titans game. He was just missing guys. He was overthrowing them. He was throwing them out of bounds. He just looked rattled. And maybe it was that LSU defense. I mean, LSU has a good defense, not an elite defense like they've had in years past. But the Trevor Lawrence that I saw in the second half, I'm not going to say he cost them the game, but there's a reason Clemson only scored 8 points in the second half and essentially only 8 points over the course of the remaining 40 minutes of the game. They just looked out of sync. They looked like, they took a punch to the gut, and they ultimately just couldn't recover.
Well, I mean, yeah, he wasn't phenomenal, and it's maybe the only, if not a small handful of games in his career at Clemson that he's been not phenomenal. I mean, yeah, he didn't have a great second half. He didn't throw for any touchdowns. Having said that, Clemson as a whole still put up 25 points. I'm not saying that's, monumental offensively, but at the same time, 25 points isn't minuscule either. So I think more what lost them the game is the fact that the defense had been giving up 11 points a game all season, gave up 42 to LSU. Part of it's on Lawrence, but I think a lot of it goes to the Clemson defense too.
Yeah, the LSU had 628 total yards. I mean, that's just, I don't have the numbers up, but I would assume Clemson hasn't allowed that many yards in years. Maybe our good old Clemson expert Andrew Koster can tweet at us and let us know if Clemson's allowed 600-plus yards any time within the last 3 or 4 years, because I doubt it. But yeah, the Clemson defense, which I think statistically they were number one in most categories, maybe top 3 in majority, their defense, I mean, the first few drives, their defense looked unbelievable. My uncle and I, we had the first half over, and we're thinking, oh my,
get your taxes in an okay
what in the
place.
World? We don't have a tax sponsorship, Brady. Trying to get the false advertisements. But anyway, yeah, my uncle and I had the over for the first half, and we're thinking after these first few drives, oh, this is going to be a long first half. And then all of a sudden, everyone started scoring like crazy. So, yeah, Lyle hit it perfectly. It's not all to blame on Trevor Lawrence because, again, if your defense allows 42 points, you're going to need to have the game of your life to try to beat that. So the defense allows 42 points. They allowed 21 points in that second quarter. I believe in the second quarter, they allowed those 3 touchdowns over the course of maybe 7 or 8 minutes, something like that. So those touchdowns, they happened quickly. But yeah, LSU, it
was 9 minutes.
It was 9 minutes. So yeah, those things happened quickly. It was like that Chiefs-Texans game a few weeks ago, and all of a sudden those touchdowns just came so quickly. So LSU, they get the job done. They win the national championship. It's so nice to have a team other than Clemson or Alabama win the Natty for once because we don't know what that's like. We kind of forgot what it was like. So overall, it was a great game. At least it didn't disappoint. The second half was at least kind of disappointing just because it was so boring and slow because there weren't a lot of points scored. And then especially in the fourth quarter when LSU kind of put it away, it was like, So the first half was exciting, second half not so much, but nonetheless a very good game. So guys, the next question after watching this game, and I guess after watching some of the biggest LSU games from this past season, was this 2019 LSU Tigers football team the best college football team you guys have ever seen during your lifetime?
I don't know. I think it's a tough question to answer. What I will say is I think a more realistic question is even, was this LSU team the best college football team of the last decade? In which case I might say yes, but my initial reaction to the question is to compare LSU to the early 2000s USC and Miami. That's what I look for. But then we've also had some pretty good Bama teams recently. And I also think since then the game has changed a little bit. Not in the same way that, for example, I think the NBA has changed in the last 15, 20 years, or that Major League Baseball has changed. But I do think that college football as a whole has changed quite a bit, especially the way that games are played, considering we see teams now that strictly pass the ball. Could you imagine that in 2002 of a team that never ran the ball? I mean, that would seem unheard of. But the argument that sticks out to me is very similar to the LeBron versus Kobe Bryant versus Michael Jordan. And for me, that's an argument that I've always said is not worth getting into. But the argument that I will say is I think LSU is the best team I can remember seeing in the last decade, where you have an offense that's unreal, but not just really good, an offense that can run the ball, that can pass the ball, that has an elite quarterback that set records this year, that is extremely explosive. But then on the other side of things, you still have an elite defense, and it was a very well-rounded team. That's why I think that LSU is, if not the best team of the decade, it's probably one of the top 2 or 3.
They're really good. I mean, obviously, they're 15-0 national championship, all that. I don't know if I'll call them the best ever, and especially, I mean, even the last decade. Here's the thing: if you go back to one season ago on this show, we talked about as last year's Clemson team, the greatest team ever, and we had a debate about that. I'd honestly like to see these two teams get compared. I mean, hypothetically, I'd like to see these two teams get compared because while Clemson's defense this year statistically was unbelievable, they did not have Dexter Lawrence, they did not have Cleveland Farrell, they did not have Christian Wilkins. I would have liked to see Joe Burrow go up against that defensive line and see how he thrived in that sense. Like last year's Clemson defense against this year's LSU offense, that would have been one to watch because both teams were 15-0. I think, I mean, even the last decade, I think those are the teams to kind of look at and compare. Of all time, I'm kind of in the same category as Josh. Like, I don't know if it's fair to compare some of these teams to teams in the 70s and way back when, before we were born, because we didn't see them play and football was different back then.
Which is why the question is that you've seen.
That I've seen, I don't know. I don't think it's fair to differentiate between two teams that went 15-0 in the last 2 seasons. I thought last year's Clemson team was insane. I thought Clemson's defense last year was much, much better than LSU's defense this year, but obviously LSU had the much better offense.
What I do want to ask, though, and this isn't coming at Blake's question, it's just simply 2 years ago we said, is this year's Alabama team one of the best teams we've ever seen? And then last year we said, is this Clemson team the best team we've ever seen? And at this point last year, I don't remember, Blake might have asked the question on the show. I don't remember what my answer was. But looking back on it now that we're talking about LSU, my initial thoughts were, yeah, probably last year's Clemson team was one of the best teams I've seen, especially in the last decade. And now the question is asked about LSU. So what I want to know is, and I don't know if there's a correct answer to this, but is there a reason why we continue to ask this question? Is it because our perception of the game is changing? Or is it simply because every year it just seems like there's a brand new team that is just absolutely unstoppable, like LSU was this year? And before I let Brady take it, I do think it's worth pointing out that no other team has had the opportunity to go 15-0 before. I mean, within these last couple years, and LSU did, which is why, correct me if I'm wrong, they're the only team to have ever gone 15-0.
Well, Clemson did last year.
Well, Clemson did last year, too.
Yeah.
So there's only 2 teams that have ever gone 15-0, which is why I think part of the question we've had is from these last 2 years. But it's also worth considering nobody else has ever had that opportunity, though.
Right, and let me just add, if people's argument is going to be LSU's offense, that's fine. Let's just remember, Clemson last year put up 44 on Alabama. That's more than LSU put up on Clemson. I mean, LSU's offense was insane, but Clemson's was too last year. So, I mean, I think it's pretty close between those two teams.
So, in true Brady fashion, I got the answer to your stat last time Clemson allowed 600 yards.
Hooray!
It was 2018 season against South Carolina.
Wow.
And it was 600 exactly. 510 passing, 90 rushing yards.
Wow.
And they won the game 56-35.
Wait a minute. They gave up 600 yards of total offense?
Yep.
And only surrendered 35 points?
Yeah.
I mean, is that
They
Clemson
allowed
had
500 passing yards.
Clemson had 744.
How many passing touchdowns did they give up?
5.
Okay. Still. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
That's
So,
insane.
I just quickly found an online website, obviously online. You put in 2 teams, what years, and it puts together head-to-head simulation. And I had it run 10 simulations between the 2018-19 Clemson team and the 2019-20 LSU team. And LSU won 9 of the 10 games.
Uh-huh.
And that's just obviously based off of stats and random whatever, and that is just a basic one there. So I still think the LSU team wins. And I think the LSU team is the best team I've seen in the decade, hands down. Granted, what team were you watching in 2010? Can you remember a team that you were watching vividly in 2010? No, probably not. Unless it was your team.
I can't remember the ASU football team I watched this year.
No, exactly. Exactly. So in watching this LSU team and seeing how they played against every level of opponent, from FCS to Alabama to Clemson to Oklahoma to everybody, the way they played, they utterly dominated every single game they played in. Doesn't matter what level of competition. They didn't play to competition. They played their own style and own level of football, and I think, hands down, they're the best team I've seen.
Yeah, for me, this one's not even close to a debate. LSU is by far the best team I've seen, not only in the last decade, my whole lifetime. Again, it's tough to really compare it to the Miami SC teams just because I was so young. So maybe if I went back and watched every game on YouTube and compared, maybe I'd have a different answer. Maybe it'd be one of those. But at least until going back until 2008, 2009, from when I have a somewhat decent memory of college football, this is by far the best team. Brady hit it perfectly. They flat out dominated every team they played, and the amount of teams they beat. Now, I know these aren't necessarily where teams finished in the season, but at the time, they went on the road, beat number 9 Texas, they beat number 7 Florida at home, beat number 9 Auburn at home, beat number 3 Alabama on the road, beat number 4 Georgia in the SEC Championship by 30 points, essentially. They absolutely embarrassed number 4 Oklahoma by, 35 points in the first playoff game. And then, for the most part, a Clemson team that Lyle and I picked to win the Natty, a team that a lot of people still thought might have been the best or second best team in the country. For 3/4 of that game, they dominated. And it was, I think, statistically the best offense ever in college football based off, I think, of points per game or something like that, or amount of points scored, maybe yards. It just talked about them. Again, I know the defense was okay. Sometimes it was good, sometimes it wasn't. They allowed a lot of points, a lot of games. Sometimes the defense was pretty good, like against Texas A&M. They beat them 50-7. Teams, I'm trying to see what else. Like Mississippi State, they only allowed them score 13, Auburn 20. So, again, not elite defensive performances, but I mean, when you compare the two teams, again, when you think of Clemson's team last year, you think of that defense, which was an elite defense, probably the best defense we've ever seen. It just goes to the point where I know it's not Clemson's fault, but you look at their schedule last year and it's who they played. It's tough to really think how convincing of a team were they. Now, I get they came out and they absolutely manhandled Alabama. They absolutely embarrassed Alabama 44-16, but they crushed Notre Dame, who was number 3 at the time, but a lot of people, they were kind of skeptical on Notre Dame being in the playoff. And the Alabama one was a great one, but if you're comparing the two, LSU had by far the more impressive season. Again, their offense was probably the best offense we've ever seen, and I just think the fact that they It's one thing to beat all these ranked teams, which they did, but it's the fact that at the end of the season, they beat Georgia by 27, they beat Oklahoma by, 35, and then they beat Clemson by 17. I mean, I don't think we've seen a stretch where any team has beaten the number 4, the number 3 ranked team by, essentially 20-plus points a game. I think it's something we might not see at least for a while, because how many teams have the chance to play these 3 like that and then can significantly win. So I think by far this is the best team that I've ever gotten to watch with my eyes.
We have 20 minutes left.
All right. Hey, I looked at my thing. That was 3 minutes, so. Okay.
Well, it's just different. We have to adjust to our shows now.
True.
Move the show along, host. You only got one more week of hosting.
Sounds good.
Oh,
are
we making the official announcement right now?
We'll see. All right, guys. Up next was Joe Burrow's season, the greatest college football season you've ever seen from a player.
From a quarterback, from what I can remember, yes. He ranks 3rd in single-season passing yards. He set the touchdown record. But I do think it's worth considering how many weapons he had around him, because just off the top of my head, remember Case Keenum had 2 insane seasons in 2009 and 2011, I think it was, when he was 35. and he had 2 insane seasons and did not have nearly as many weapons around him. One of Lyle's favorite players of all time, Colt Brennan, had like a couple of insane seasons with fewer weapons around him. Heck, Anthony Gordon just had like the 5th or 6th most passing yards in a single season ever, and like I think realistically the 4 of us could probably name his wide receiver weapons because Washington State, we've seen him play frequently, but could most college football fans name his top 3 receivers? Because I think a lot of diehard college football fans could name Joe Burrow's top 3 receivers. I don't think they can name Anthony Gordon's. So yes, I will say that because I think through and through what we saw from Joe Burrow this year is exactly what I would want in a quarterback. I want a guy who's big, he's strong, he's not afraid to run, but he's a pass-first guy. And you can implement him into a pass-first offense, into a run-first offense, and he's still going to figure out a way to march the team down the field. That's what I want in a quarterback. That's what we saw from Joe Burrow this year, and he had a record-setting season. So I will say yes from a quarterback standpoint.
From what I've seen, yeah. And to be fair, I mean, look, I was alive to see Tim Tebow.
And Colt Brennan.
But I don't remember a whole lot of Tebow. I remember a little bit more of Cam Newton. Those are 2 of the guys that if you're going to make an argument, it's probably those 2 guys or Joe Burrow, at least in the last generation or so. But from what I've seen, yeah, I mean, he had the highest percentage of Heisman votes ever, the touchdown record. He dominated every game he played, I'm going to say. In my memory, yeah.
Bradyth.
I'm sorry, I got distracted by a Kobe video. It was a great video. I say yes. I say absolutely yes, quarterback-wise. Granted, you look at some of these seasons, like a couple years ago, the season Christian McCaffrey had.
Yeah.
His last year at Stanford was just unreal. He did every aspect of the game that he was in. Offense, special teams, everything he did was next level. I say the best quarterback season I've ever seen, or of all time, I say yes. Overall quarterback. The Anthony Gordon one was just like 75,000 yards and 310 touchdowns. But like, what did that?
Yeah, and they didn't win a lot of games. That's a good point. They didn't win a lot of games.
Exactly.
Yeah, the ones to compare these to, obviously the Tim Tebow ones, just because. But that seemed like that was just every year, and it was always kind of like the same thing. The Cam Newton
we
one,
undervalue what Tim Tebow did.
the Cam Newton one is probably like up there for me, just because I had to go back and just double check his stats. I just remember he was so dominant that season, the year he won the Heisman and the year Auburn won the Natty. But I forgot that he threw for 30 threw for 30 touchdowns, ran in 20 touchdowns, had like 5,000 combined yards. But I think overall Joe Burrow, this was the most dominant. I mean, 60 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. So he had a touchdown to interception rate of 10-1. I think he also said like the completion percentage. He threw like 77. He had a 77% completion percentage. I think he like set that record as well. Threw for 5,700 yards, and additionally, what he ran for 400 yards and 5 rushing touchdowns as well. So overall, I thought it was the most dominant season, and it's the fact that again against Georgia, 4 touchdowns, no picks. Oklahoma, 7 touchdowns, no picks. Clemson, 6 total touchdowns. Actually, Oklahoma was 8 total touchdowns, and Clemson was 6 total touchdowns, no picks. Against Alabama, on the road, 3 touchdowns, no picks. It's the fact that in the biggest moments, he delivered. So I think that overall, just from game 1 until the final game, Joe Burrow, this was the most dominant and best season I've seen from any player, at least that I can remember, aside from Zane Gonzalez' senior season.
True.
When he set the field goal record. All right, guys, let's talk about a few things right now. The first thing, and I want to get to this one first because I want to bring up Lyle's point, and that's the LSU-Oklahoma game. LSU blew Oklahoma out of the water. However, Lyle does have something he'd like to discuss on Oklahoma's performance in not only this college football playoff, but a few other college football playoffs.
Yeah, and
Yes.
so I was talking to Blake about it. I was talking to Josh about this earlier today. But I do have
Why
a little.
not me?
Well, Brady, you weren't in the bureau.
Oh.
Well, you were later.
I
but-
was.
Okay, I have a little bit of a spiel on this. I'll keep it short, though. So everybody likes to rip on the Pac-12. They choke in big games. They don't play good teams, blah, blah, blah. They like to do the same thing with Notre Dame. Every big game they play in, they choke. Well, my question is, if you're going to have that conversation, why in the world is Oklahoma and the Big 12 not in the same conversation? Because let's take a look at what Oklahoma and the Big 12 have done since the college football playoff started. They've been in 4 times. Oklahoma's been in every time, no other Big 12 team. They lost by 20 to Clemson in 2016. The one time they kept it close, 2017, 54-48 in the Rose Bowl. That was the Baker versus Nick Chubb, Sony Michel game, and that was an overtime thriller. 2018 45-34 loss against Bama. Don't look at that score. It was way, way more of a substantial loss than that. I mean, Bama was up 21-0 after the first quarter. They were up 31-10 at halftime. Oklahoma was playing behind the whole game. And then this year against LSU, oh my God, they got dismantled. 63-28. Joe Burrow goes for 8 touchdowns on a defense that, had a first rounder on it. So in total, in 4 times that the Big 12's been in the playoffs, they've essentially given up 50 points per game in 4 different contests. So, look, the way the Big 12 plays football is simply not sustainable. You can't throw up video game numbers against atrocious defenses, ask to garner national attention, and then just get absolutely stomped on when you get your biggest chance to shine. So, I mean, I just turn to college football fans and say this. If the Big 12's best product has gone out now 4 different times and only once even kept it close, has not received a win, and none of the other teams in the conference have even made it to the playoffs, if you're going to slander the Pac-12, if you're going to slander Notre Dame for choking in big games, either include the Big 12 in that conversation or just don't have the conversation at all.
Yeah, and I think Oklahoma's had some really good teams in the past few years. But to Lyle's point, most of them were because of an elite dual threat quarterback and a powerful offense. I thought Oklahoma's defense was going to be better this year than it had been in recent years, and in most aspects it was. But it's just not a sustainable style of college football. I don't think they're going to find continued success against other conference champions playing the current style of football that they play, where And the one thing that comes to mind is what Lyle mentioned. The game that they kept it close was the overtime game in the Rose Bowl in, well, I guess was technically 2018, but the 2017 season against a Georgia team that had a decent offense, had a powerful defense, going up against an Oklahoma team that gave up a lot of points, but also scored a lot of points, and they met a real defense, and it didn't work out. And to Lyle's point about the Pac-12 being slandered, I think it's pretty obvious, in my opinion. Pac-12 is going to produce more balanced teams than the Big 12 is. And I know that we ragged on the ACC a lot this year outside of Clemson. I think the ACC is too. I think there are going to be more balanced teams that are better defensively and better offensively rather than a team like Oklahoma that's going to put up 100 points against you. But if you've got a good offense, they're going to give up a lot of points too.
If you're going to give up 50 points a game in a playoff game, you probably don't deserve to be there. I mean, football goes both ways. You got to play defense too. You can't give up 50 points in a playoff game to a national powerhouse.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I remember that Oklahoma's always not really done too well, but Lyle bringing it up, it just shows, Oklahoma, you need to get it together. The Big 12 need to get it together. They deserve some more, discredit for what they've been doing in the college football playoff. But Oklahoma, maybe next year, we'll have to wait and see. The final game, guys, is the Ohio State Clemson game. Now, I know there was some controversy behind it. There were some missed calls. I mean, for the most part, you can make the case, but the fumble call, there was a scoop and score that they called back. I thought that was a bad call because it wasn't enough to overturn it, so that kind of shifted momentum. The targeting call, that could be questionable. Had Ohio State gotten past Clemson in this game, which it looked like early on they were going to. It looked like early on it was going to be Ohio State's game, and obviously they had things go against their way, and momentum shifted. Do you guys think Ohio State could have given LSU a run for its money? Could they have been competitive? Could they have beaten the Tigers?
I don't know. I think it's... I don't know. I thought that this was the most evenly matched game going in on paper, and I was most excited for it. But, I mean, Clemson did... I don't think any blown calls cost Ohio State the game. I do want to put that out there. I don't think it cost Ohio State the game. I thought they had some opportunities, and I don't think that they executed on them, but I don't want to single out a certain missed call that blew the game for them. But I mean, Clemson beat Ohio State. Clemson ultimately got ran by the wagon that is the LSU Tigers. Couldn't hang with them for 4 quarters, and so no, I don't think so.
Wouldn't Oklahoma make sense to be a wagon? Sorry, just thought about that because they have the wagon.
My 2 cents on it is also no. Look, it would have come down to offense with Ohio State too against LSU, and I don't think they could quite pull it off. Look, Justin Fields, as everybody knows, I think is really, really good, but I don't think he quite could have gone punch for punch with Joe Burrow.
The big thing for me is seeing how this Ohio State team played in the playoff game, and then all of a sudden they're going, and their momentum just drops dead. And one of the things that we've seen is, would that momentum have dropped dead in the national championship game as well?
God.
Well, I guess I didn't.
happened.
I guess I didn't get the memo on whatever just happened.
I mean, that hypothetical question just really rattled us. Is anybody else okay?
I'm all right. You okay?
Yeah, my hip hurts.
Yeah. Oh, man.
I don't know what happened.
I feel like Tua just popped that out.
For those of you listening from home, the three of them just fell on the floor for whatever reason. I guess there's some group chat going on where they said, all right, when Brady says drop dead, let's all fall on the floor that I guess I wasn't a part of. So maybe it's a...
You all right, Josh? You need some help over there?
No, I'm all right.
All right, cool.
I've recovered.
Water?
Oh, yeah, sure. Mute my mic, please.
Sure.
Thank you.
Well, there's some inside joke I'm not quite getting, but hey, I think Ohio State, I don't think they necessarily could have beaten LSU, but I think they definitely could have put up more points than 25. So they could have kept it a little closer, but then who knows, because who knows. But I would have been interesting to see LSU versus Ohio State, to say the least. But that does wrap up this, I guess, discussion of the college football playoff, the national championship, a bunch of fun stuff. But Lyle has one more thing he'd like to say.
It kind of just goes back to this LSU or this Ohio State Clemson game before we wrap it up. It's just a smaller little spiel than the whole Oklahoma thing. Is we talked about some of the non-calls. The thing that bothered me the most, not even the fumble and the scoop and score, it's a targeting call, like on Sean Wade.
That was bad.
And on Sean Wade, a guy who's probably going to end up being a first-round pick one day. This rule has to get changed. Like, I'm so tired of seeing players missing 3 to 4 quarters of football for hitting a guy in the head. Like, I know, like, player safety, don't hit guys in the head. I want to see NFL or these college players have long and prosperous careers too.
Also,
but
it's just rude.
that too. But look, I think you can change it to like a flagrant 1 and a flagrant 2 foul. Like a flagrant 1's 15 yards. A flagrant 2, the player misses a quarter. If it's that bad where they like rule it unsportsmanlike conduct too, then maybe you kick him out for a whole game.
Like the ASU San Diego State targeting.
Yeah.
Where he was going for the head.
Like,
I'd rather not talk about that.
Like, if it is
I agree,
so
though.
Brandon
unbelievably blatantly obvious that they call unsportsmanlike with it too, then kick him out for a game. But I don't think these guys should be missing more than a quarter for just trying to play football. I want to see these guys protected, and I don't want to see anybody get hurt. But I don't think teams should be affected by one like bonehead play where you're kicked out for a game.
Yeah,
I
Idea
hate
for a
it.
show this season. We all bring PowerPoint presentations and we give our ideas for the new targeting rule.
Yes.
I like it. Well,
And
it
what
did
is the
affect
catch?
the game, though, because I believe it was like 3rd and long or something. And then the targeting call, then it was a first down. Clemson ends up scoring a touchdown. So there's no targeting call. Clemson punts.
Yeah, that's a good
And
point.
So who knows what happens. So Ohio State, they got a slight shaft.
I
a
think-
tiny shaft.
I
minimal
do
shaft.
think that Blake is right in
A super tiny shaft.
Although-
I do think Blake has a good point in saying that Ohio State, regardless of whether or not they would have won or lost, because it's a hypothetical and we just can't answer that.
we love hypotheticals
I
here.
do think Ohio State would have scored more points than Clemson.
Yeah. But you know
Yes.
what? You can't put everything on the non-calls either, because at the same time, Chris Olave runs the right route at the end of the game when Ohio State's driving
That is
down.
true.
Ohio State
That
wins.
is true.
No
His
ifs,
route.
ands, or buts.
You hate to see
No
it. All right,
butts,
guys.
just shafts.
Now, this is a perfect transition into our Q&A because we got a few minutes to get a few questions out of the way. This comes from Kyle S. He said, if there was a rule you'd like to add to college football next season, what would it be?
No being mean. If you look at someone funny, if you touch someone funny, if you do something mean in any way, if you say anything mean, it is an automatic 5-yard penalty and a first down.
Yeah, I'm just going to stick with the targeting thing I just went on about. So, yeah, I'll stick to that.
So we're being serious again.
One play a game where you're allowed to pick another player on the other team to sit out. So like 4th and 7, 30 seconds left, the kicker can't play this play. Down
What?
2, kicker can't play.
I have a serious one that it's along those lines, and I might have mentioned it on the show
I think you
before.
have. Go ahead.
Power play. Just like hockey, where somebody on the other team sits out for 2 minutes. No, one play, the person who is guilty of the penalty can go out and you can put on anybody else you want on the field for your penalty killers. If it is a serious penalty, they're out for 3 plays or something like that. So if you have Grant Delpit go out, great. Like, defensive coordinator can put out whoever he wants, but you're down a guy for 3 plays. If it's like pass interference, it doesn't need to be an automatic first down, but he's off the field for 3 plays, you can put whoever else you want out there to try to fill that void, but you get 10 players on the field.
I have an actual rule as well. This is something the XFL's going with, is the onside kick, where it's essentially you get a 4th and 15, and if you don't convert that 4th and 15 as an onside kick, the ball goes to the other team from the 25-yard line or wherever it is.
Yeah, that's interesting too.
Yeah.
This could be a show in itself, like fun rules we'd like to see. I mean, obviously something with the targeting. I was trying to think of like an overtime instead. You make it like a field goal competition where you start from like 30 yards and you just keep pushing them
it's
five
like a 3-point
back.
competition, but field
Yeah,
goals.
something like that. But we can do a show completely dedicated to that. Remington Rawls says the last time the best offense went against the best defense in the Super Bowl. So we have an NFL-related question because why not? We can do whatever we want. The Seattle Seahawks beat the Denver Broncos 48-3. Do you think offense will win or defense will win in this year's Super Bowl?
Look, I don't know what it is. I think that Kansas City's a better team. I don't know what I just got this feeling that the 49ers are going to win though. And I mean, I'm a Rams fan, so I don't love it. I don't love that at all. Mahomes was my starting quarterback this year in fantasy, so I think I'm going to root for them, but I don't know. I think the Niners get it done.
Bing, bing, Niner gang will lose.
Good Lord. That was great, Lyle. I genuinely think the Niners' defense is so good, but the level that Patrick Mahomes has been playing at is even better. I'm going to go with the Chiefs.
Oh, and don't forget that Jimmy G's just like not very good.
He threw 6 passes.
You know, if the Seahawks just would have gotten into the end zone with 1 yard, this probably wouldn't have happened because the Niners would have been like the 6th seed, would have had to open up on the road. Saints would have had a bye. The Saints would have likely been in the Super Bowl. But again,
Blake loves those hypotheticals.
The Seahawks continue to shaft me in the playoffs just like they did in my young childhood. But I'm going to go with the Chiefs in this one. I think Mahomes is going to go berserk. It's kind of tough to win a Super Bowl considering you have Jimmy Garoppolo at the helm. So we'll have to wait and see how he performs there. But I'm going to go with the Chiefs in this one.
Over under for next week's show, how many minutes it take? 20 minutes for me to say wagon and 8 seconds for Blake to say shaft.
Under. All right.
Taking the under for both, but unfortunately that does wrap up this show for the final season, episode 1. We're going to be back next week. A whole bunch of fun stuff to talk about. Leave a comment, as I mentioned below in the comment section. I don't know, they're like doing, they're hitting the whoa or whatever that's called. Let us know what you'd like to have us talk about. Hit us up on Twitter, all that fun stuff. Make sure to vote in the Harris Highlights Award Show. The link for the awards and the polls and all that stuff. And my mic just went out. I don't know what's going on. Hello. Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me? There we go. I'm back on. It was Brady's fault. I'm not shocked. Maybe it was the industry who spilled the coffee. Who knows? Make sure to vote for our awards. That award show is going to be in 2 weeks. Follow the show on Twitter at the HHShow_. Give this video a thumbs up. Leave a comment. And yeah, thanks again for watching. For Josh Schaefer, Lyle Goldstein. There's some inside joke that no one's telling me. I have no clue what this is. Our executive producer, Brady Klain, and there he goes. This has been Blake Harris from the Bill Austin Radio Studio at the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism in beautiful downtown Phoenix. We'll see you guys next week.